tension on the rise. Rules get broken right before our eyes. Working hands keep lifting the load while leaders sleep at the end of the road. People shout what they've held inside. A nation stands strong when the laws are applied. Turn up the truth, let the bass cut clean. Borderlines drawn in electric green. Strength takes order, order takes trust. A home needs walls if it's built to last. America first, let the night ignite. Hard rock thunder with a gentle bite. Guard the gates, keep the future clear. Stand our ground with a steady gear. Raise that flag where the skyline glows. A stronger nation, everyone knows. Doors stay open when the rules hold firm. Fairness lives when we stand by the terms. But chaos grows when the system cracks. When power plays twist all the facts. Cities strain and the pressure climbs. People tired of repeating lines. This ain't about origin, border or skin. It's about keeping the house we're living in. Draw the line sharp, make the warning clear. Security shouldn't be a thing we fear. Let justice rise with a neon glow. Protecting the house is how nations grow. America first, let the night ignite. Hard rock thunder with a tussle bite. Guard the gates, keep the future clear. Stand our ground with a steady gear. Raise that flag where the skyline glows. A stronger nation, everyone knows. Everyone knows.
It's a potato show.
It's a potato show.
We got eyes everywhere, don't you know? It's a potato show. It's a potato show. We're underground for you and we're ready to go. We're peeling back the layers of fun. Spuds on the run till the day is done. Mash it, smash it, baked or fried. We're the root of the joke, no need to hide. It's a potato show.
It's a potato show.
We got eyes everywhere, don't you know? It's a potato show. It's a potato show. We're underground for you and we're ready to go. We're rolling, we're tumbling, we're full of starch. From the garden patch to your dinner march. Tubers unite in a jazzy groove. Hop on the vine, we got moves to prove. It's the potato show.
It's a potato show.
We got eyes.
All right, welcome in, guys. So I am excited to be here on the second stream. So today, as you noticed in the description or the title, fairly large news coming out of Washington. So we'll kind of jump right in. If this is the first time you're tuning in, welcome. Please hit that like button. That'll help me out greatly. So here we just talk about the current events, try to talk about, food, fuels, freedoms, the essentials in life. I'm a potato, so the foods are a big thing, but right now we're talking about our freedoms. And I don't know if you guys had heard, most of you probably that are tuning in currently know the, hey, don't call it art. It is good to have you. I haven't seen you in my stream, so it's good to have you here, buddy. Yeah, for sure. So in the news the last week, there was a shooting of an Afghan national, harmed a couple of National Guards, and one of them is passed. So I'll take you in and show you kind of what I'm looking at here, and then we'll go into some of the other stories that I have in store here. All right, so West Virginia National Guard member has passed, and another is in critical condition after the gunman fired near the White House. Here is a story on that. Maybe.
Just tell NBC. Yeah, Hallie, good evening. So 2 senior law enforcement sources tell NBC News that the FBI is now looking at the very distinct possibility this was an act of terrorism. The suspect, an Afghan national. This was a targeted attack, a horrific attack, with the aftermath caught on camera. Terror in the heart of Washington, D.C., just 2 blocks from the White House.
This is a targeted shooting. One individual who appeared to target these guardsmen.
Video captured the moments police and National Guard troops subdued a suspect while a few feet away performing CPR on someone who's down.
The suspect came around the corner. He immediately started firing a firearm at the 2 National Guard members. 2
National Guard troops shot. NBC Washington reports one is a male guardsman, the other a female, both from West Virginia in critical condition. 4 senior U.S. law enforcement officials briefed on the investigation tell NBC News the suspect they've identified is 29-year-old Rahmanullah Lakanawal.
There were other National Guard members that were in the area. They heard the gunfire. They actually were able to intervene and to kind of hold down the suspect after he had been shot on the ground until law enforcement got there within moments.
So again, this is getting a little concerning to a lot of people, and Trump has put out a press release. Let's see, when did I see that? On the 27th of November. So 3 days ago, obviously on Thanksgiving, it looks like. If I were a satellite, I would be a Sputnik. Yeah. What's funny is I actually have Starlink, so I guess maybe. I thought they were all peaceful. Yeah, that's what I thought. I thought that the Islam religion was the religion of peace, and we'll definitely get into that here in a bit. So he says, happy Thanksgiving, salutations to all the great American citizens and patriots who have been so nice in allowing our country to be divided, disrupted, carved up, murdered, beaten, mugged, and laughed at, along with certain other foolish countries throughout the world for being politically correct and just plain stupid. When it comes to immigration, the official United States foreign policy population stands at 53 million people, most of which are on welfare from failed nations or from prisons, mental institutions, gangs, or drug cartels. And this is his words, not mine, guys. They are, and their children are supported through massive payments from patriotic American citizens who, because of their beautiful hearts, like you and myself, do not want to openly complain or cause trouble in any way, shape, or form. Yeah, that's kind of done and over with now, isn't it? Because I, for one, am kind of tired of sitting to the sidelines, and that's why I'm here talking out. Nothing large, of course, but I want to be starting to speak out against this kind of stuff. They put up with what has happened to our country. It is eating them alive to do so. Yes, it has. I am sure a lot of you will agree with that. A migrant earning $30,000 with a green card, which is approximately what most of us make in a year if we're lucky, right? And they roughly get $50,000 a year benefits for their family. I don't. I'm sure you don't, but we still only make that $30,000 a year, like it's saying they make, plus another 50. So the real migrant population is much higher. The refugee burden is the leading cause of social dysfunction in America, something that did not exist after World War II. Failed schools, high crime, urban decay, overcrowded hospitals, etc. As an example, hundreds of thousands of refugees from Somalia are completely taking over the once great state of Minnesota. This cannot stand. Our states are our states. If they want to come in and assimilate into the state, they can do that. But the idea that they come in and just start to take over, this is where it starts to get finicky. Somalian gangs are roving the streets looking for prey, quote unquote prey, as our wonderful people stay locked in their apartments, houses, hoping against hope that they will be left alone. The seriously our-slurred governor of Minnesota, Tim Walz, does nothing, either through fear, incompetence, or both, while the most congressman / woman in our country, Ilhan Omar, always wrapped in her swaddling hijab, and who probably came into the United States illegally. And again, this is his words. I'm just reading them off of his statement. Came into the States illegally in that you are not allowed to marry your brother, does nothing but hatefully complain about our country, its constitution, and how badly she is treated when her place of origin is a decadent, backward, and criminal-ridden nation, which is essentially not even a country for lack of government, military, police, school, etc. And it goes on. I won't necessarily drone on about this per se. Wickmoto, welcome in, buddy. It's good to see you. It's good to have all of you in the chat. Everybody that's viewing. Let's see, do we have enough likes yet, guys? All right, so basically with this story, he then the next day, I believe, put out this video.
Vamoose, leave while you still can. Alligator Alcatraz. It's pretty funny. Well, I think it's funny, at least. All the illegals, they still think we're stuck with them. No. You're about to be stuck in here with us. Clock is ticking. Could be a soft tick, could be a loud one, hard to say. A word of advice.
No. You're stuck in here with us. So there's a time for laying down. There's a time for standing your ground. And as he's stating in this video, he's kind of tired of laying down. It's time for us to stand our ground to a certain extent.
So I'd scream if I were you. Skedaddle. Vamoose, leave while you still can. Alligator Alcatraz is just the beginning. Next up is Shark Shawshank. Sharks, very dangerous, not the most reasonable of...
Sharks with laser beams on their heads. I can't do it. I'm a potato. But you get the reference, right? Dr. Evil. Yeah. This isn't Dr. Evil, but sharks with laser beams on their head. Maybe that's what we have to go to, right? All right. So let's see. What do we got going on in the chat? If I called everybody out that's in the chat. Yeah, it looks like it. Welcome in, everybody. Good to have everybody here. All right, back to the video.
Beasts. Some of you have seen the Discovery Channel and know what I'm talking about. Shark Week, very exciting. We'll live stream escape attempts, justice and economic stimulus in one. Rikers with grizzly bears is an option as well. We could use a snappier name, but the concept is strong to very strong in a big way, quite frankly. It's pretty funny. Well, I think it's funny, at least. All the illegals, they still think we're stuck with them. No, no, no. You're about to be stuck in here with us. Clock is ticking. Could be a soft tick, could be a loud one.
Sorry about that, guys. Wasn't paying attention, apparently. All right. So I exit out of that. So he's basically done. But let me take you back to some stories that I was watching as I was getting prepared to start streaming in general, right? This one is probably one of the most egregious ones that I've come across. Dad passes of grief after daughter 12. This is absolutely ridiculous. All right, getting off of that a little bit because that one breaks my heart every time I see it. So this next one here was before. Well, let me just.
We're done hiding. We're done. We're done being tortured and hurt and judged. This is the correct religion. This is the religion that all of humanity needs to be upon, of Islam.
I'm sorry. Aren't you the ones that are essentially doing that last story that I just got done with telling you guys about? Aren't these the ones that continuously degrade us and say that we're the infidels and that we're the ones that need to be ground under their boot or whatever the case may be? They're the religion, they're the right religion, when Christianity is never ever said, like, unalive your enemy unless you absolutely have to. It's only defense that Christians stand our ground. So what is this?
And we will not stop until it enters every home. So I want you to repeat after me. I want to hear it in every single district. It should tremble.
Hey, sweet Delta Dawn, welcome in. It's good to have you in. It's good to have everybody in. Yeah, Wikmoto, I agree with you completely on that one. Muhammad is not the right prophet. Yeah, too bad they don't have boots, right? This is true. All right.
Brooklyn should hear it. The Bronx should hear it. Queens should hear it. Say it as if the Ummah depends on this, my brothers and sisters. La ilaha illallah. La ilaha illallah. Muhammadan Rasulullah. There is no God worthy of worship except Allah.
There is no gods before him nor after him. The God of Christ is God. It is not Muhammad. I don't know what this is all talking about here, and I don't speak what they're speaking. I won't necessarily slur it like a lot of people do, per se, but that's not English, so why is it being proudly yelled in our country, right? The true God of grace and forgiveness is not found in a religion that pushes violence as a way to obtain heaven. Benjamin, yes. Absolutely, entirely, I agree with that. So I don't understand how they think that they're the right religion. They're the right God.
The God of Jesus, the God of Moses, the God of Abraham, and the God of the last and final prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. We're done.
Stop speaking different languages. All right. Well, I mean, different languages are all right while you're getting assimilated into the country, but we need to start assimilating into the country, not like this kind of stuff. Why is a governor, mayor, whatever he may be, I'm a potato, so why is he speaking anything but English in a press conference, a community conference, anything that his community is listening to? It should be English because, again, English should be the number one spoken language here.
It is such a pleasure to be here alongside so many friends and so many for whom today is the first time I'm having the opportunity to meet you. And this is the first Jamaat that I have been to since we won our election on Tuesday.
So again, calling for something that not all of them should be calling for or want to be calling for. He should be looking at the majority of the population for what he is calling for. And then this one here, this one was posted, or at least I saved it. When did November 7th. So it's been a little while that this has been going on. Can anybody explain to me what exactly is going on here? Hey, his words of love. Welcome in. Thank you for joining us. It's good to have you. Again, welcome everybody into the chat. All right.
A strong man isn't just muscle and confidence. It's control, discipline, and the will to rise no matter how heavy life gets.
I do like that quote. I don't know exactly what they're referring to, but that's a bit concerning for sure. What are they trying to accomplish here? Because it looks a lot like they're trying to take over, what would you call that? Invasion, I guess, of sorts. So let's talk about the problem with multiculturalism, according to this fine gentleman, Nick Freitas, however you might pronounce his name. I'm not, again, I'm a potato, so I don't know dialect all that well. But he has some very good takes, as well as these gentlemen from, I believe it's called Trigonometry. The links will be in the description below. If you haven't checked out their streams, please check them out. Nick is in the government somewhere. I can't think of off the top of my head what he does, but he seems to be trying to fight for us. So let's take a look here. Hey, yeah, almost the whole cool verse and that's who supports me the best. I love you guys. All right, so let's start in on this video.
I don't want big government. I want strong government.
Why would you do that to me?
Hi, I'm Ryan Reynolds, and welcome to my mountain television software demo stuff.
Bye.
Okay. There's a big difference between those two.
So
a strong government is a government that doesn't fluff.
Thank you, Pumpkinhead. He's a governor in VA. What's VA? Dang, I am. Anyway, let's see. We need more men like Nick. Yes, we do, Pumpkin. And yes, Pumpkin, this is a clear invasion on American soil. As far as I'm concerned, being a potato looking in from the outside, I don't see how this is anything but that. Virginia, thank you, Pumpkinhead. You're good, buddy. I'm a potato, and I didn't think about doing the due diligence to research where he came from. He's just a good guy to watch. Again, his YouTube is in the description, so definitely check his stream out, as well as Trigonometry. They have some pretty good debates and things like that on their show as well.
These important conversations. I don't want a gigantic Department of Education.
Yeah.
What I want, though, is for people to recognize that immigration, when it comes in large clusters from different parts of the world, comes with different value sets. And you mentioned multiculturalism. My view, and it's important to distinguish between the two, there's a multi-ethnic society. That's a society in which you have black people, brown people, white people. And there's a multicultural society in which inevitably you get to the point where all cultures are equal.
Yeah, which is garbage.
That doesn't.
And see, that's just it. Is when you get to the point where all cultures are equal in that particular country, you don't have a culture anymore. And I realize that we're supposed to be the melting pot, and we're supposed to be allowing everybody in to melt in with us. But the process of melting in would be then assimilating into our cultures, our processes, what we want in the ultimate end, right? So this idea that all of these different cultures can mingle is finicky, because some can. I'm not saying that they can't. But if your culture, your religion specifically tells you to lie, deceit, to unalive, to do whatever is necessary to gain power, how is that going to be compatible with anyone, really, for that matter?
And that just simply does not work. The reason America, as an outsider, in my opinion, has worked as well as it has is that immigrants from past generations would come here. What would they do? Number one, they would teach their children, we are now American. A lot of them would change their names to become more Americanized. A lot of them would no longer speak the language of their home country at home with their children, to encourage their children to integrate.
Exactly. Again, trying to assimilate into our culture. If your country is so torn and so bad off that you are choosing to flee it for our culture, our country, our way of life, because that's what our country is our way of life. If you're fleeing your torn country for ours, there must be a reason. You must be wanting to join our way of life. So join us. Don't try to come here and... Isn't that what essentially a parasite does on a living being, is just attach and feed for their benefit? So I'm not completely sure, because we're going to show quite a few little clips of people that... Should they be here?
To the point now where there are Italian Americans, but are there ghettos of Italian Americans? Yeah. Are there ghettos of Irish Americans? Are there neighborhoods where you can only be elected, or big if you're Italian?
Yeah.
Not really, right? So that is the destination. And the question is, are all cultures equally capable of getting there? And I would put it to you, our experience in Europe is that unless you are very, very, very forceful about breaking up the ghettos that automatically get created when people migrate in large numbers, probably not. And then that means you do have to violate an element of the classical liberal thing, which is, all people are the same, or all people are equal. Then,
so as far as that goes, when it comes to the ability to survive, breathe, find food, work for food, work for money to achieve food, these are all, yes, everybody is equal. However, equality when it comes to rights, and we'll go over rights in depth on probably multiple videos, but like Andrew Wilson talks about, rights don't really exist, especially of how we think of them. Unless you can personally defend those rights, as I've mentioned in other videos, that's why the Second Amendment is so important. And especially if this is what we fear, and it is an invasion, the Second Amendment is more important now than it ever has been in the past. But everybody being equal under the eyes of God, yes. Everybody being equal under the eyes of the law, under the eyes of the Constitution, of those kind of things, it's not going to always be the same, because again, this is especially the Constitution of the United States is for the citizens of the United States, not for everyone in the world, because we cannot look out for everyone in the world. We have to look out for ourselves first, and then we can then help the rest of the world.
No, and you have to start recognizing that if you're going to save your country.
Yeah, I think we've one of the things that's been interesting is you look at the immigration issue in the UK versus the immigration in the United States. It's very different. It's similar that we have massive problems with illegal immigration, but I'm looking at the numbers, and I'm seeing this the numbers from North Africa, from the Middle East, and even from places like Albania.
It's always hard to find places to pause here. The numbers are growing, and they're growing exponentially, and until the crackdown, and that's why Trump is essentially closing all of the third world countries off until we can figure out what we're going to do going forward. Hey, Miss D, good to see you. Crusader, good to see you too, buddy. Anybody else that I'm missing I haven't called out yet? All right. They're fighting so hard to bring Sharia to Texas right now, and it confuses everyone for that matter, Sweet Delta. Because I thought you were trying to get away from that. Well, see, that's just it. Again, if they're trying to flee from their country, their war-torn, bad politics, whatever they're wanting to flee from their country to our country for, I thought that's what they were trying to get away from. Their politics, their... and it's your politics that runs you into these kinds of situations. So it's essentially Sharia law that you're getting or trying to get away from. So yes, that doesn't make sense to me either at all whatsoever. Japan's now blocking all third world tourists. Pumpkin, yeah. I really am not surprised. I would be surprised if they weren't, honestly. As we do things, the rest of the world will probably take suit because they'll see the wisdom in what he's doing. Taters and pumpkins in the chat, yeah, but no tomatoes. No turnips either. Please like the video and share me out there. See if we can get me some kind of viewership. And thank you, all of you, for being here. This is definitely the biggest I've had so far. I've only been doing it for 2, but thank you.
Where you go look at the British prison system, and it's pretty easy to see where the main problem spots are happening. Then when you had things like the various grooming gangs that were taking place in the UK, there's no denying that there is a connection there, a cultural connection there between the way one culture views young British girls and versus the way Britain views their young girls. And it was amazing to watch this almost slavish response coming from elements of the classical liberal tradition, which, more on the woke, more on the progressive side, but still of that classical liberal tradition, that were just insisting that, well, how dare you? When you look at these numbers over here, we see that there's a small, and everyone is looking at them like, are you insane? Like there is very clearly a connection here. It's a connection they don't deny in more honest conversations. So why is it that we're not allowed to have that conversation? And it immediately goes back to, well, because if you do that, you're violating this universal principle that all people are equal.
And again, we need to start having this conversation. If you're wanting to come to the United States, you need to be coming to the United States because you want to come to the United States. Not flying your flag from your country, but flying the American flag. Wanting to be an American. Wanting to make America the country that you're wanting it to be. Not coming in and utilizing everything that you can without really putting in your due diligence to be part of the community. If you come and you're working it without actually becoming a citizen, the money that you're paying in taxes is not what you think it is. The taxes that you're paying are going to be things on what you're buying. Yeah, you're going to be paying taxes on that, but income tax, things like that are not going to be taxed on that. I can't imagine it being that way. So you need to be coming in, and if you're here for multiple years, you have plenty of time to be doing the application or the process to become a citizen in full and entirety. So we need to be pushing for this idea more and getting them fully assimilated into our culture so that they don't come in thinking that they can be who they were.
And I think some of the response here is, well, no, I can believe that all people are equal in the sense that they have equal value before God, that they should have equal protection before the law to the extent that they fall within the jurisdiction of that law. But they don't have, cultures are not equal. They don't give the same answers to all the same existential questions that we face. So why do you think, because this has become a major source of, again, all three of these categories, a lot of infighting about where we should go, what we should do, but they've all seemed to kind of agreed on this point that there was a fundamental flaw in this kind of, maybe you might even say overly libertarian interpretation, which is just, oh yeah, the free flow of goods and people, and when we'll all be happy. Do you think the main sticking point as it differentiates between Western civilization in Europe and specifically in the UK has, again, we have a lot of Hispanic people coming in the United States, but there's a lot of actually shared values there. Not all. There's definitely different cultural things that are manifesting themselves. But Catholic versus a largely Protestant nation, traditional family structures, traditional ideas of, what husbands and wives should do and raising kids and working hard and all of that. And then all of a sudden you go to Dearborn, Michigan, or you go to Minnesota right now and you look at some of the things happening there. It's like, whoa, how is this ever going to be assimilated?
Yeah, from what I understand, they're in Dearborn, Michigan, and the chat might be able to help me out a little bit here. It sounds like it might be time to really start thinking about what we're going to do. I don't know, again, much about what's going on, but I keep hearing the name, and it doesn't sound like it's going too great. So if you know anything, feel free to chat it. Let me see what you got.
And it's a large of it is Islamist. Like I have people that I served with in the military who are Muslim, who are very, very proud Americans. And I will have people, well, that's because they're not properly following their faith. I'm like, okay, I'm happy to have that conversation. But one thing I have noticed is that the more people, if they get their primary identity from Islam, there seems to be a general incompatibility with the very classical liberalism that is, like to your inviting people here that are not interested in assimilating. Is that a fair representation of what's been happening in the UK? Is that the type of immigrants coming are by virtue of their culture and their religious faith not interested in assimilating into English culture or British culture?
These are general.
That's just it, is if their religious and their religion is devout against us, how are they ever going to assimilate in? Crusade? Yeah. Starting to wonder, I don't know much about the Crusades. I do know that it was Christians that had to take back their land, and it does seem to be that way. I will never call for violence. Never in my ever will I ever call for violence, because that's not what I want. But I would like unity again. And if that takes the force Unfortunately, force doctrine is a thing, and we do need to start utilizing it again to be able to stand our ground when we need to. Sorry.
Statements, of course.
Yes.
So it's difficult to talk about it without being nuanced. But I think if we're being really honest, Nick, and I think this is just a statement of fact, a lot of people don't like to say it because it makes people uncomfortable. No one in Europe gives a shit about mass immigration. It's
really?
Not really. Not really. We let in hundreds across the continent of Europe, millions of Ukrainians. Where are the Ukrainian crime waves?
Mm-hmm.
Well, and that's fair. Ukrainians seem to be a fairly peaceful type people, and that's where it gets finicky. Because again, I don't disagree with people wanting to come here from their war-torn country and needing to get away. Now, the way that immigration works is we want the people that are going to help our country. When we take people in legally, they're people that are going to ultimately be benefit to the country one way or another. Now, if they're benefit to our country, they're going to be a benefit to their country. And if they're coming from a war-torn or a economically defunct country, wouldn't it be better for them to be there and help their own country, right? Don't call it art. In the past, liberal friends had told me assimilation is bigotry, quote unquote. And I pointed out that Islam hates the gays and was met with pure cognitive dissonance. And that's just it. Is I've been met with the same reaction. They don't want to assimilate into us, but they demand that we assimilate into them. Almost every case, it seems like, we're demanded to assimilate, where they, on the other hand, won't. So again, if you're wanting to come here, by all means, please feel free to join us legally when the borders become open again, whatever the big boss says. Trump there, the president, right? Whoever's president at the time is the one who I'll listen to. I'm not going to say that I wish anyone down, right? Again, I've mentioned to this people that know me, the president is the pilot of the airplane. We're all on. Why would we wish that down? Regardless of who that may be, he is the commander-in-chief. Hey, Gorilla Biscuits, welcome in. Thank you very much for joining the stream. Really appreciate the engagement and seeing you here. All of you, again, thank you.
We let in hundreds of thousands of Hong Kongers into Britain. Did that affect Britain? British people are not concerned about Hong Kongers or Ukrainians. The problem in Europe is Islam. That's what people are really fearful of, and that's what's going on. I was
listening to you guys' interview with Tommy Robinson. It was a very controversial character, and he was even saying, I don't think it's multiculturalism. And that shocked me because everything I've ever heard of Tommy Robinson was like, oh yeah, he just wants a white Britain. And then I'm listening to the guy talk about it. It's like, well, that's not what he's saying. He's, in fact, one of the reasons why I understood he kind of left some of the organizations he was previously associated with, which were some pretty shady organizations, was in part because he would bring his ethnic friends to the meeting and they weren't invited. And it was like, whoa, this is not what I'm down for. But he'd even said, I'm not trying to get you to like pick a side on this, but it was just shocking to me to hear someone like Tommy Robinson, which has been caricatured a certain way, say, no, I don't got a problem with immigration. I got a problem with this type of immigration because it refuses to assimilate.
And again, just driving the point home, I guess, at this point in time, all we're asking for is assimilation. If you're willing to be part of the United States and be a part of the culture, then absolutely you're welcome through the right means, so that you're contributing and you're being a contributing member of society, plain and simple. But if you're coming in and not assimilating, that becomes an issue, because as more and more of your religion, of your culture get in here, then it becomes a problem. It's like the slippery slope fallacy. And it's not really a fallacy in a lot of cases, because it's like a lot like a mouse wants a crumb. You give the mouse a crumb and he's going to want a cookie. You give the mouse a cookie, he's going to want a glass of milk, and so on and so forth. That old nursery rhyme, or whatever the case is. But that's exactly what we have going on all over the United States right now. I am degenerate fatigued. All of the other fatigues just go right out the window as far as I'm concerned when it comes to this, because it's all degeneracy. Degeneracy is the movement away from the ideal. It is what it is. So we need to start moving back to ideal. And what is ideal? It is a solid home with a mother and a father, biologically married and happy with, well, as far as I'm concerned, the man being the one that's taking care of the home, and the woman being the one, well, the man being the one that's making the bread, and the woman being the one that's taking care of the home, whatever you want to call it. But women need to be allowed to be the caretakers again. We need a strong foundation, and that's where it starts, is the home.
And do you think that more and more, I mean, I'm seeing this more and more in the UK, at least from what we see in American media and social media. Actually, not in American media, it's what we see on social media. But it also seems like it's happening in Germany, it's happening in France, and there seems to be a pretty straight line being drawn toward it's immigrants from Islamic countries and cultures who identify that way. Their primary source of their identity is Islam, that are just not interested in assimilating. And
that's a really good question, Mrs. D. How do we measure or test if migrants have actually assimilated? Man, that is a good question. Because when it really boils down to it, you're literally told, according to your religion in this case, that you are to lie, you are to deceive, you are to do whatever you need to gain power. If you're literally told to lie, how are we ever supposed to know that it's not? That's a very good question. Oh, man.
I feel like for the first time in my lifetime, it's become okay to say that. Do you think that's just because the evidence has become so overwhelming?
Sex.
No,
I said
man,
it.
Come on.
Now you're probably thinking about it.
Why would you do that
And
to
that's
me?
how it starts. Your brain fire.
Stop that.
I think the issue is when you look at everything that has been happening through the UK with the protests after October 7th. Literally the next day, there was a protest. Well, it wasn't a protest. It was a celebration of the slaughter of over 1,000 Jewish people. You look at the grooming gangs, and the part of the reason, and people actually don't address this enough, as to why there hasn't been an inquiry and why we haven't spoken about it and governments haven't addressed it, and people talk about political correctness. There was a large-scale cover-up as to what was happening. And if we're going to have a real inquiry and we're going to have a proper discussion about it, which we haven't yet, then the reality is some people are going to be exposed as knowing what was going on, at best turning a blind eye.
Yeah, people know. How can they not know? Sorry. So if there's one rabid puppy in the box of puppies, you don't pick up the box of puppies and let them into the house. Yeah, that's a good point, Wigmoto. If there's one rabid one, they're probably all going to have it. You got to be careful with that. Hey, apprentice, it's good to have you finally here, buddy. And Miss D, I'm waiting for the response to the question. Assimilation can mean something different to each group of migrants, and that's just it. That's very it. That right there is, we need to have a good solid rule that this is assimilation. You have, and it's funny because, again, we'll get to it. This isn't all I have planned, but I don't want to ruin it. So we'll hopefully be able to find that clip when we want to, but we'll get there.
And at worst, actively encouraging, if not profiting from it. So there's a very, very, very dark aspect to the grooming gangs that we haven't yet addressed, because there's local councillors involved in this, local councils, local politicians, police force, every schools, care homes. This is a rot and a cancer which goes right to the heart of our establishment and right to the heart of the systems of government throughout our country. And that's a part of the grooming gangs that we haven't yet spoken about, because once we do, you're going to see a lot of people, particularly people now who are, doing very well in politics and other areas of life, who started off in those, local councils 20 or so years ago.
And that's the other problem right there, is the allowance for them to get into local positions, and then they get into higher positions, or they're able to sway people sometimes, whatever you want to call it. It may not be them actually having the power, but where they're in a position of local power, they have a lot of the times more say in what happens bigger. Expulsion or inquisition, which will it be? Don't call it art. That's the thing, is when is it going to be that America comes first? Because I've been saying it a lot, we can't pour from an empty cup. We have to be able to say we have the foundation, we have the funds to be able to do this. If we're just pouring it all out inside of the United States, we can't do anything outside of the United States, even if we should be, which a lot of it we shouldn't be. There's some, I'm not saying we shouldn't be helping others. I'm just saying there's a lot of things we shouldn't be doing that we've stopped finally.
So, and they were a police officer, and now they're at the head of a particular police force. But 20 or so years ago, they were either involved, or they were negligent, or they just simply turned a blind eye to this.
Yeah, and just to add one thing, coming back to the conversation of how do you move forward, which is what you're about, right? Is I think part of the reason that the things that Francis just described happened is that because supremacist ideologies are intolerable to our mindset, we don't know what to do with the supremacist ideology. We have interviewed a number of victims of these grooming gangs who all explained that the reason that they were targeted, and while they were being abused in the way that they were, their race and ethnicity, and in some cases Christianity, was the reason that their perpetrators felt entitled to behave this way. Because the Islamist worldview, or maybe in some cases the Muslim worldview, I don't know exactly, is supremacist in nature.
And again, like we were watching the video before, they think they're the correct religion. They think that they're the superior race. And I'm not saying that I think I'm superior by any means. I'm a potato. I'm multicultural myself. Okay, hold on. Can you hear me now? That was weird. Should be okay now. So I'm a potato. I'm multicultural. I don't believe that any one race is superior to the other race. But we need to all get to an understanding. Hear the Pledge of Allegiance in perfect English. I don't know if I can even do that. I don't English well. I don't English well. It's like I don't math well. I don't English well. All right, so let's see. Hopefully this still.
So that being the case, well, you are bringing people in large numbers who believe they are superior to you. If I believed I was superior to the culture of Britain when I came from Russia, I would not integrate. Mm-hmm. Why would you integrate into an inferior culture? That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and that's another thing, is why would anybody come here and think that they're not coming to a superior... I don't like that. That was a really weird pause. Sorry, guy. So I wouldn't want to go to a nation that's less established, that's going to be inferior, quote unquote, right? So why would they be coming if they don't think this is a superior nation? I'm not saying a superior race. As I'm saying that, I was wondering if that... Anyway, the nation itself has better politics, has better capitalism, whatever the case is, and they want to be able to utilize that for their benefit, so they're going to come here. Again, if that's the case, then why aren't they joining the force and not just saying, well, we're going to try to bring our nation with us? Ben will give you the Pledge of Allegiance in any accent you want to hear it in, and he does a very good job of voice impressions. We'll probably be having him on the show as soon as I have an actual set plan and a set way of doing it, for sure. I asked a chick from Sweden what she thought about our country. She said that it was going to the mall. To be like going to the mall. They don't care about this country. They just want our stuff. All it comes down to, period. Yeah, grill biscuits. That's just it. They don't want to be here to help us. They just see that we have all of the money, that we have a good drive to us. Like myself, I own a company, and it's not big. I'm not saying I'm anything special. Again, I call myself a potato, but I do everything that I can to help, to provide for other people, provide for my family, to be able to have a family, those kind of things. And we are doing it so that we can help people. But we're tired of just being the mall. We're tired of the ones that are putting out all of the money and not getting anything in return. I just putting out the money. I don't even care about getting a thanks in return. I'm just tired of putting my money out on the extreme basis as we have been. That's just it. Don't call it art. Yes, we ought to help the vulnerable. Ought to. Yes, absolutely. I agree 100%. Just not when it is in opposition to our own interests. Again, we have to think of ourselves first. Have to.
So I think this is interesting because when you grow up in a classical liberal tradition where you believe in, again, equality before the law, equality before God, freedom of religion, right, which leads a lot of people to say, well, we have to treat all religions equally. Okay, well, what if not all religions are willing to integrate with your society equally? Does that mean you just have to do it regardless? This is the part where I think this category 2 and this category 3 are really fighting and trying to figure out the classical liberal tradition. That's what we have to remain true to. We just got to go back to our roots. And a lot of the people in category 3 are going, our roots got us here. Maybe not in their entirety, not saying that throw the baby out with the bathwater, But as I listen to voices like, Carl Benjamin, where he says, yeah, classical liberalism works really, really well for the people that invented it, like it, and have lived in it, more or less for, hundreds and hundreds of years. We're not allowed to think that. And I feel like...
Well, hold on.
And that's the thing is we're not allowed to think that, but every country that's coming into our country is allowed to think that their country has some say in what's going on. I don't really know what is actually trying to be accomplished here. But that's just it, Pumpkinhead, is we got to take care of family. We got to take care of people. Get a job, clean up America, and send all of that money back to your family. That's how they do it. Maybe that's how we need to start doing it, is just start focusing on ourselves, our families, and if they want to be part of it, then they be part of it. I don't know how to help you if all you're doing is just taking but not giving back. It's going to sooner or later be a detriment.
Says that.
No, the left acts as if you're betraying certain fundamental principles, and even some people in the classical liberal tradition behave as if you're betraying.
But this is why the distinction I made earlier is very important. I do not believe that if you were to take a person from rural Pakistan, pluck them out of their crib, transport them into an American family, and they were raised here surrounded by normal Americans, that there is something about the fact that they were born in Pakistan that makes them immune to imbibing the traditions of classical liberalism, all other things being equal, right? It's possible. The problem is that's not how immigration happens, right? So it's not, the problem, I'm not saying Carl says this, but the problem with the reason that this becomes such a difficult thing to discuss is that people often use very unnuanced language when they're talking about it. And what they say, well, people from this part of the world can't ever, well, that's just factually incorrect. They can. Right?
Yeah, they have.
They have, right? So what we should be talking about, really, I think it's really a lot simpler than the conversation we've been having, to be honest. What we should be saying is this. We need immigration if we're going to have it. And America, in my experience, is the most pro-immigrant country in the entire world. Like, if I talk to people in this country about, there was a time when we thought about moving here, and I tell people, we're thinking of that, but we'd love to have you.
Yeah.
Like, that doesn't exist in most other places. Genuinely, right? So America's, but all you got to say is, we want immigration that makes our country better. That's what we want, right? And then you go, well, what does that mean? Well, what that means is we're looking for cultural compatibility. I love that President Trump is going after Nigeria right now over the massacres of the Christians. I love that, right? Because basically what has happened for the last God knows how many decades, or maybe centuries, is Christians around the world have been terribly treated, and no one gives a because we care about the civil war there, the Sudan.
And that's another thing is, like I've mentioned in other videos, if we don't rule as Christians, we'll be ruled over by people who claim to be Christians, claim to be the better, claim to be more benevolent, whatever they want to claim at the time. But again, you don't see Christians trying to dominate other cultures. You don't see Christians going out and part of their religion being deceit, lie, cheat, whatever you have to be able to get that position of power, to be able to sway the vote or whatever you need to do to gain that political footing. Once you gain political footing, then you can take something down from within. Where Christians are trying to get Christian nationalism here in the United States, it's not like we're sitting here trying to do it outside of the United States. And I don't know exactly how I stand when it comes to Christian nationalism. I'm trying to take the secular stance and understand everybody's side. But I have a stance of my own for sure, and it is definitely not this degeneracy, not this idea that you can come into our country and do whatever you want, take whatever you want, and give nothing back when it really boils down to it.
Right? You want to think about people who are coming. Well, are they going to Well, Christians are probably more compatible with this country than Buddhists.
Yeah.
Right? It's not because I'm against Buddhists, it's because America's a Christian country, right?
Monday.com, the opposite of any work platform we tried in the past. We tried other work management platforms, not naming names. They all suck. Monday?
So that's one aspect of it. Another aspect might be the cultural values of the place they're coming from, their level of education. You know, their involvement or not involvement in terrorism. These are pretty basic things, right? Yeah. So you go, what is an immigration policy? Forget political correctness. Mm-hmm. What is an immigration policy that benefits America? I would imagine that means you bring in people who are broadly compatible with your cultural values, who are smart, who are entrepreneurial, who are driven, who've got whatever traits you'd want your daughter to marry. Mm-hmm. Let's have the same approach to immigration.
Yeah, so again, like he's saying, we want people who are going to build our country up, help things out. Everybody's capable of doing that. Regardless of what you may think, there's people that I'm going to try to do everything that I can to bring onto my channel that will give their life story and show you that even in the depths of despair, there's hope. People can rise above it and do what they need to do. The immigration policy has to be for the betterment of our country. We can't be just letting in everybody. It's like your home. Like they've constantly said, well, are you going to be willing to let them into your home? Are you willing to give them your own food to the extent of them wanting that to have? So we need to talk about our immigration system. Get it to a point where it's solid, where we understand that it's going to be betterment, not detriment.
And so, and here ends up becoming I'm just going to pose it as a question. They'll say, okay, but you're just doing that as a dog whistle, because what you really want are white people, because the sort of immigrants that you're going to get that actually meet with the characteristics that you just mentioned are more likely to come from Western European countries than they would be from Sub-Saharan Africa.
Okay, I also want people who are alive and not dead. That doesn't mean I'm against dead people. I am not saying we need more white immigration. I think I've laid out a pretty convincing case of the type of immigration you want.
So again, it doesn't matter where you come from. I don't mind. We just need to be willing to assimilate into the culture when you get there, right? So like they're saying, they don't mind them coming from South Africa or whatever. It's just they need to be able to be willing to be assimilating into it. Daniel Johnson 8638. Not sure what you mean. HE double hockey sticks. No. Just kind of curious on what you're referring to, my guy. Don't want to necessarily say anything that I don't want to, because I'm not sure what that means. But thank you for the engagement, regardless of what you're saying. If they can work, they can get their own food. And that's just it, is everybody can work. Anybody can work in one capacity or another. We have so many remote type jobs nowadays. I mean, look at me. I'm a potato on a live stream. You can do whatever your heart desires if you put your mind to it. The videos that I've seen of people, human beings, without limbs, doing things that I no way I could do any of that kind of stuff, and they're limbless, right? They don't have it. So it's amazing what they can do, what human bodies are capable of doing in general. "1938's Germany," I think is what he's hinting at. Don't call it art. Is that? I appreciate the feedback. Probably the food comment. His words of love. That's a good possibility. Thank you guys for helping me out here. All right.
And by the way, there are lots of Christians in India who are brown people, right? So I think it's a silly argument, and you know it is. That's why you're putting it to me. I just think it's very simple. You want people to come who are going to make your country better, and you want to do everything possible to not put people in your country who are going to make it worse. And yes, there are ways to tell that in advance. In the same way that you have a front door in your house, and you let people in who you think are going to be good people to have in your house, and you do everything you can up to and including arming yourself with weapons to make sure that people you don't want in your house don't come in.
Which I do agree with. We do need to have that Second Amendment. We need to be observing it lawfully, wisely, safely, all of that good jazz. I again, no violence, no unnecessary violence. Unfortunately, there is going to be necessary violence. Force will always be a factor. And it will always be something that we have to take into account and be ready for. It's better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war. I believe that's Bruce Lee. So again, we have to be thinking about what is best for all involved, not just the few that want to come in and take.
I think there's I think making the distinction between cultural traits versus ethnic traits is incredibly important.
Mm-hmm.
I remember I shocked when I was in college after the military. I was in a very, very diverse college class, and it was an English class. It's always an English class. They talk about things that have nothing to do with the actual subject matter. But they were talking about the professor, white liberal professor, kept saying black culture. And I remember asking, I said, "What do you mean by that?" And he goes, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, first of all, can you give me what you mean by culture?" He goes, and he goes, "Well, what do you mean by it?" I said, "I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of Bell, but we can use it's society's attempt to come up with a coherent set of answers to the existential questions that we face." He's like, "Oh, okay, we'll use that." I said, "Okay, good. So now that we have a definition that we're all keen on, what do you mean black culture?" And he looks at me and goes, "What do you mean?" I said, "Okay, I'll just say it, Professor. I don't think there's any such thing." Now the class is looking at me like, I said, "What I mean by that is that I don't think there's a monolithic culture that is assigned to you by virtue of the amount of melanin you have." I said, for you to believe that, for you to say black culture, what you would have to agree to is that if I asked one of those existential questions to a black man in Los Angeles, Detroit, Birmingham, Alabama, London, Paris, and Johannesburg, I'd get the same answer because they're all black. Then the students all looked at him. I was like, "Yeah, got you." but I think I think one of the problems that we run into, and this is part of that fight that's taking place, is that obviously you have different civilizations that have grown up in particular areas that generally have certain skin colors that develop cultural institutions, and so the visual thing of I can tell white versus black versus Asian or what. The visual thing ends up becoming the quickest distinction to make assumptions, to engage in heuristics about what that person is likely to believe about certain questions. And I think part of what has frustrated so many people is this idea, am I not allowed to use this heuristic? And I think what you're saying is you can use the heuristic, but it's not determinative. You can't say because you're this skin color, you think that.
Yeah, that's what would that be called, racist? If you're thinking you can't say that if you're that skin color. We'll go ahead and jump forward. There's something that he talks about here past his ad, so we'll get past
Here's
that.
the question I want to ask about, okay, so what do we do about this? Because here's the other problem. There are elements within classical liberalism. I think you've done a good job displaying them here. It's like, look, it's not about, no, I'm not trying to exclude people that don't look like me, but I do think we should be careful about letting people in who think diametrically opposed to what we think.
You're right, exactly. We need to be opposed to letting in people who are opposed to our way of thinking. Like Mrs. D asked earlier, define assimilation. Define what that is going to be, right? Because if they think that assimilating is just being here and saying, yeah, I said the oath, doesn't mean they swore the oath, just means that they said it. And again, we'll get into that maybe here in a bit.
Right? It's not reasonable to assume that that cultural clash is going to be beneficial for either side. So, okay, we've separated the kind of the racial component from the cultural component because they are distinct. But now we get into the issue of, okay, practical application. I'm looking at places like the UK right now, and again, if I look at the UK and I look a little bit more into our future, because let's face it, the United Kingdom, England specifically, more than any other country in the world, is what influenced the United States, our cultures, our customs, our religion, it just did. And I'm looking at various things that are currently going on, and it does seem like there was a welcoming of people into the country that, again, have no love for English culture or even broader British culture, because like those are, so my question is, okay, if we want to maintain that elements of that classical liberal structure, which are very organic to England, one could say that most of them are originated and developed and nurtured in England and then exported outward. How do you deal with the problem that we currently have? What mechanisms do you use that preserve the principles you want to protect without going into some of these areas where, because this is the debate, right? Like if we accept certain arguments that are currently being made, do we actually lose the thing that we're trying to save in the process?
I don't think if you have sorry, Francis, I'll just say very quickly and then you dive in. I don't think you lose anything if you have a points-based immigration system in which you get a tick for being a genuine Christian, not someone who says they're a Christian, in which you get a tick for education, in which you get a tick for some kind of skill or trade or whatever, in which you get a tick for other indicators of cultural compatibility and ability to contribute, right? You get a point for this, you get a point for this, you get a point for this.
But you think it would be okay to do like a point for like, are you a Christian? Or what is your religion and whether it's
I'm not saying it would be, you wouldn't also include other religions. I don't know that Buddhists.
Yeah, it would really have to depend upon the religion as far as I'm concerned. Because again, is Islam compatible with the United States politics? Is Islam compatible with Christian? It doesn't seem like it to me. Again, being a potato outside of it all, I can't really say much. But thank you very much, Crusader. If you're still in the chat, really appreciate that. Subscribe. If you haven't liked the stream, guys, please do. It really helps me out, helps the algorithm out, shows them that I'm somewhat liked person. I'm just kidding. You don't have to like me if you don't want to. All right, so back to it for a minute here.
Are incompatible with America. I don't think they are, as far as I understand. I don't know much about Buddhism, right? I don't know. I think Jews are pretty compatible, historically speaking, based on what we've seen. I don't see any. I see some people being hostile to Hindus, but I don't see that being as a result of their religious incompatibility.
I chose the domain name joshharmon.tv because I think about my content like a little television show.
One of the things I heard somebody explain on this that I thought was interesting is they say a religion can be political or it can be proselytizing.
This right here. This is what I was looking for right here. We'll make sure we see all
include
that.
Other religions.
Yeah.
I don't know that Buddhists are incompatible with America. I don't think they are, as far as I understand. I don't know much about Buddhism, right? I don't know. I think Jews are pretty compatible, historically speaking, based on what we've seen. I don't see any. I see some people being hostile to Hindus, but I don't see that being as a result of their religious incompatibility. Right?
One of the things I heard somebody explain on this that I thought was interesting is they say a religion can be political or it can be proselytizing.
Yeah.
But if it's both, you're going to run into issues. So what they were saying is Judaism's political, but it's not proselytizing. They're not trying to convert you to Judaism. Christianity is proselytizing, but it's not political in the sense that they're not trying to set up a Christian caliphate, thing. But Islam is both political and proselytizing, and it believes it is justified in doing so through the sword.
And that's the biggest thing. Like I had mentioned earlier, Christians don't try to conquer. They're not trying to go out and take over other religions, other politics, other things. We're just trying to secure our roots here so that the Christian morals, the Christian values have somewhere to be able to feel at home. I don't know. But if you're both, you are essentially an enemy of almost anywhere other than your home country. I'm a potato. I don't know. But this seems like a serious concern for the people in the United States.
Yet there are Muslims like Ed Hussein, who sat in this very chair a few months ago, who's great for America. He's moved to America and makes it so. But Ed's, I think, doctoral supervisor was Roger Scruton. Yeah. Right.
My friends, loyal Americans, cops, soldiers that I serve. I mean, these guys put it all on the line to defend this country. Absolutely love this country. But there's also a difference in the way they interpret their faith versus the distinction we might call between someone who is a.
And there again, like I had mentioned earlier, if they're strong in their religion, if they're religious themselves, if they believe in their religion. Now, I understand there's a lot of Christians that don't really follow the faith. I don't know other religions very well, so I can't say that about other ones. But I know that there are some Christians out there that don't abide by the rules. And so they are looked down upon, whatever you want to call it. But if you're wanting to come to our country, you need to be willing to at least somewhat assimilate into the same morals, the same values, the same understanding that we in the United States have. I think that might be, let's see. We have a little bit.
Muslim versus an Islamist.
Yeah. So all I'm saying is I actually don't think this is nearly as difficult as people like to pretend, provided that you're prepared to say, no, we're not going to treat everybody differently because not everybody is the same.
Yeah.
And if your name is Jihad, maybe that should be -1 point. The latest synagogue attack in the...
Yeah, again, these attacks that we have going on, they're concerning for a lot of people, and potatoes, myself being one of them. The violence has to stop. We've got to figure something out. Somehow, these people need to be willing to be part of us, or just politely leave so that we don't have to resort to violence.
Okay, there's a guy called Jihad. Maybe if your son is called Jihad, let's do a little extra checking. I'm just saying.
Yeah. No, it's.
Sorry, Francis. I've been banging on this for ages.
No, it's Look, I'm going to be brutally honest with what's going on in the UK. I'm incredibly pessimistic about what's happening in the UK, simply because we are not able to have the conversation. When it comes to mainstream politicians, we're having the discussion about what is actually happening in the country, what is happening with Islamic extremism, what is happening with terrorism. We don't have the conversation. I'll give you an example. 2022. So a man I actually knew is a man called Sir David Amess. Sir David Amess was a beloved Tory MP.
have an attack, and we come together really fast, and we stay together for a day or two, and then we sprinkle back into what we were doing before. And we need to get back into assimilation of everyone. And that's including the United States, because we are so divided amongst ourselves, left, right, races, doesn't matter. We're so divided that if anything were to actually happen, would we be able to conform? Would we be able to unite fast enough to be able to survive it? God forbid. Right? I don't think that anything's going to happen, but if it does happen, we have to be willing to stand together. Like Wikimoto says here, assimilation or banishment, good with either way. At this point in time, it's going to have to be that. You have to assimilate, or you have to go ahead and go. Whether that be whether we take you by force or you gently and politely leave. I cannot go into another country and think that I'm going to be met with flowers, daisies, and especially money. That one has never sat well with me.
P. Member of Parliament. He was stabbed to death by an Islamic extremist in his what is called a surgery, and that is where it's basically
his constituency office.
Got it. A man came in, stabbed him to death. Then very next day, everybody in the newspapers or on TV was talking about how we need to combat online hate.
Good God.
Yeah. You know, and
yes, where I do agree to a certain extent that online hate has to be shamed, has to be stopped. Who's causing the hate online? And who's trying their hardest to curb it, right? So we have to start paying attention to our surroundings, paying attention to our neighbors, making sure that they're okay for one, but making sure that they're on our side. And I'm not calling out your neighbors, not that kind of crap behavior, but just politely asking them, is there something that I can do to help you understand why this is a better way? If you chose to be here, shouldn't you be choosing to do what you should be doing to make it better here?
To say that is despicable doesn't even begin to cover 1/8 of what actually happened.
Yeah.
It is cowardice of the highest and most profound order. We simply do not have the guts, the mettle, the ability to actually stand up and go, we have a very real problem in our society with a minority of the Islamic population who are extremists, who want to destroy, end our civilization and our way of life, and they will do whatever they can and whatever it takes in order to achieve that goal. But we're not prepared to talk about it. We're not prepared to have a conversation about it. We can barely have a conversation about whether we should have borders in our country.
And yes, we should have borders in our country because we have doors on our homes. Why is there even a question on that one is my question. Oh, Foofy, good to see you into the chat. I don't think combating online hate would have solved a physical assault in any way. It's like addressing what they want to have addressed and then ignoring the glaring violence happening there. I do agree. Online hate does have to be combated. The rhetoric, the idea that people can speak hate into the world, that rhetoric, that feeling, that needs to be shamed. We need to stop pushing hate into the online sphere. The idea that online hate is causing physical violence directly is obviously not the case, but it is indirectly causing some hate and some violence in the end. Welcome into the chat. Not sure how to pronounce that. Islam isn't compatible with anything but Islam. And that's the thing, is it's not really compatible with anything but itself. They're trying, as I mentioned, or I showed you in that other video, in those other videos, they're not trying to assimilate. They're trying to take. And that is a concern. Like Fufi says, there should absolutely be borders. A lot of people agree with this. Anybody that has a lock on their door agrees with it, whether you will admit it or not. You don't want other people in your personal space. That's natural, and that's okay.
And until our political class has been gutted and we get a new political class in who have actually got some backbone and are willing and able to have this conversation, I'll be honest with you, I don't have a lot of confidence, Nick. I don't actually have a lot of belief in that anything is going to change. And I haven't actually spoken about this. I talked to Konstantin about this and a few other people. But
I call him a racist in a bit.
But my outlook for my country is actually pretty bleak as a result.
Yeah. But this is why for America, you have a unique opportunity. Because we have made all the mistakes that you are likely to make.
And he's not wrong, unfortunately. They have made all the mistakes that we're heading far quickly into. And those mistakes are allowing a mass influx of people that are against your ideology, your politics. They end up getting a lot of violence and have to make laws in order to try to curb that violence, and that causes more issues and so on and so forth. Pumpkinhead, watch their faces carefully. That is a very good point. Watch what people do, not only what they say. Actions will always betray a lie eventually. You can be really good at what you do and be a very good deceiver, but eventually the truth will shine through. Now, whether that be when you get your ultimate goal or not is the other question, but the truth will come to light, and God will ultimately be the arbiter of truth in the end.
If you carry on the way you've been going.
Well, there's a lot of, there's the one thing that I'm a very, very proud American, but I am ashamed of the fact that a lot of these ideas were exported from here.
I'm glad I could give you a saying, Pumpkinhead. I didn't even pay attention to that. I'm glad that you liked that saying, buddy. Not sure which one it was, but I'm glad I could give it to you.
Now that's not to say that people like Herbert Marcuse and Antonio Gramsci and all these others, Jean-Jacques Rousseau. I mean, we can all dump on the French here, right? Like,
we're down for that.
But a lot of kind of this latest manifestation of critical theory, critical race theory, queer theory, wokeism, as we colloquially referred to. Here's the next part that we'll kind of like conclude on, because I think how we answer this next one really draws distinctions between the two categories and talks about, okay, what is going to be necessary and how do we do it without losing ourselves in the process? Because I think this is important. The immigration one is actually a little bit easier because there's a distinction. It's the people that have come and have broken the law, and there's already legal mechanisms. Even if we have politicians that are not willing to use it, there's legal mechanisms. There's a distinction in people's minds that makes it easier to make that argument. What do you do about the people that allowed it to happen, that are encouraging it to happen? Because in many respects, that's your fundamental problem. The fundamental problem is we have, it's, again, we want to call it the woke mind virus. You want to call people that within your civilization that have fully adopted, embraced, and are now implementing it. And let's face it, they have done a great job of conducting the march through the institutions that Gramsci and others talked about. How do you prevent those people from maintaining power or keeping it in the future? Is there a legal mechanism you use to that? Is there a form of government power that you implement? Or is it just making better arguments?
Well, you did it last year, didn't you?
With Trump?
The election of President Trump, again, for a second time in 2024, showed you that this entire worldview is completely bankrupt, right? The way he won, it was overwhelming, overwhelming in every respect. And that, to me, was a clear sign, and you see it now in the sense that Mamdani isn't actually woke. Have you noticed this? He doesn't talk about race at all. He doesn't talk about those issues. So the kind of identitarian worldview has been largely defeated on the left. You win the argument, and you win elections. And that is, what else are you going to do? Get rid of half of America because they don't agree with?
No, it's well, and I'll give you.
Can I just add a point as well?
Yeah.
The problem isn't the ideology. Ideologies only flourish when societies are weak, which ours has become. It isn't.
So this is where they're obviously talking about the right versus left. So we're more focusing on immigration today. So I'll go ahead and skip past this and get back to the topic at hand. Let me see what I can pull up here. Actually, I'll go ahead and just leave
the
this
people
playing.
propagating these ideas or spreading them. That's not the real issue. The real issue is the fact that we have a courage deficit amongst our elites and amongst our leaders who see this lunacy being spread, who see nonsensical things being said, like a man can become a woman, a woman can become a man, I can identify as a ferret, or whatever it may be. And we don't do anything. We don't say, hang on a minute, that is ridiculous. No. Because we do not have the spine or the backbone or just the certainty to actually stand up and say that these things that are being said, not only are they patently false, not only are they scientifically untrue, they're deeply toxic, and if imbibed on a civilizational level, is effectively what I would call it's civilizational dry rot. It will rot your culture and your society from the inside.
But this is why
and that's just it, is if we don't get back to some morals, some values, some understanding, some middle ground, some actual common ground, like I'd mentioned before, agreeing to disagree is not common ground, right? You're going away from each other, agreeing to disagree. We've got to find where we can agree. We've got to find some common ground. So like I said, this is more of what the right versus left. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to bring in another clip back to immigration. If I can figure my computer out, goodness. So this is from the Whatever podcast. This is just recently. They had a foreign national on the show. Foreign national, I can't really say it. I don't know how. I don't know what a national is considered. But they had someone on the show that was from somewhere else, and we'll talk about what they say here.
To war with Colombia. Let's say the United States went to war with Colombia. Who do you side with?
Colombia.
You pick Colombia?
Yeah.
Honestly, look, you shouldn't be allowed to be a citizen of the United States.
She just kind of shrugs it off. Now, I've watched the whole 6-hour debate, and I wasn't able to find this particular clip, and so they had the clip, so I just stole it, utilizing it to drive the point home. But as I believe this clip says, she took the oath. She went through the process to be a citizen, and she's out and out saying that she's going to be willing to take Colombia's side over ours. Exactly. Crusader, ungrateful. That is absolutely ungrateful. The way that she just shrugs it off, it's just, it's egregious. That's just it. I get that no one has a backbone, but why? The government is controlling them, keeping them from standing up. What's really going on? Why are we not actually protecting our citizens? All right, let me get back.
You want citizenship in the United States and to live here. You can't be treasonous to the United States.
Well,
you got to go.
You're entitled to your opinion, so.
What opinion? You took an oath. Do people not know what oaths mean anymore? Well, obviously they don't, or she doesn't, Because very nonchalant, I don't care. It's fine. You can have your opinion. I'll have my opinion against the country that's giving me everything that I could possibly want. Yeah. Girl with all of it on her face sides with Colombia. You don't say. Yeah, mush mouth. That's true. Yeah.
Part of becoming a citizen when you're nationalized is that you have to relinquish your loyalty to your previous country too.
Yes.
So
Based. You've got to relinquish it. Based. That is so true right there. You've got to relinquish everything in your past that ties you back to that ideology, that country, whatever that dedication gives you back to that country. You've got to relinquish it and come back be here in the United States, be a citizen of the country you're currently residing in.
So are you saying that when you became a citizen, that's something that you didn't do?
Yeah, I would side with Colombia.
Then
again, why come? Why come? Why come you no go? Sorry. But why would you join a nation that you have no intentions of being loyal to? If you're literally coming to be part of the nation and your nation comes and invades and you turn, that is treason. I mean, is it not? That is warrants for unaliving. Is it not?
why don't you go live in Colombia? If you came here to find a better life, then this is where your loyalty should be. End of story.
Let's say the United...
Yeah, Foofy, it's not an opinion. It's not an option. She took an oath. She falsified her oath to this country in favor of a country that she could not care less about. Even legally, we are struggling to have citizens dedicated to the U.S. Oh, let me see. I'm pretty sure I have a stat pulled up somewhere. There it is. So here you'll see let me zoom in on that a little bit for you so you can see it. So this is CIS.org, welfare consumption according to 2022. This was published on the March 6th of 2025. So just recently, this was published, and I guess it was from 2022. But you can see that illegal immigrant households are on welfare according to CIS.org. They are on welfare. They are on food. They are on Medicaid. And they are the majority of the utilization of it. So how are we being America first, right? I mean, I understand that we've never really been claiming to be America first, but we maybe should be starting to claim to be America first. So this is, again, we'll just bring this up to re-drive that point home. This is the reason, well, not the reason, but one of the reasons we are tired of all of it. These three young ladies taken from us because they were just simply being there. They were happy with who they were, whatever the case may be, and they were taken from us. Since we're just right here, ladies, we don't like this. This is not something we like. No. I wonder how many viewers of the whatever podcast reported this girl. I am curious too. She just declared herself an enemy combatant, siding with a country that is not our ally. Hey, Rubber Ducky, thank you very much for the subscription. Appreciate that. Anybody that has subscribed, really appreciate the subscription. Try to keep you interested and keep you watching. I'm always open for feedback. I'm always open for suggestions on what content to cover. And since we're on that subject, since women love to complain and bitch and moan that we stare at them in the gym, well, guess what? It goes both ways. Yeah, you've been caught. Oh boy, howdy, you've been caught. So it's time that we start to get back to understanding that men and women have their own roles. We have a place, and that place needs to be held to it. And since we're going ahead and on the subject,
I'm 25, right? I'm sitting here and guys are
so last stream I talked about what are women reading, right? And how they have gotten some crazy literature out there nowadays. And it has basically ruined their brains. Or ruining, maybe, I don't know. Hopefully not ruined, past tense. There's always room for healing, right? But this young lady goes on to basically show us the detriment of the hookup culture, the detriment of this literature. I'm not saying she reads this. I'm not likening that to that. But this might be part of the reason that she's dissatisfied, because she has fantasies in her brain that aren't living out in realities.
lucky. You guys do not understand. So I'm 25, right? I'm sitting here and I'm having to build a fucking roster. I'm having to sit here and go out and do things I don't.
No, you don't have to build anything. You don't. When we're vetting the people that we're going to be with, it should not be intimacy straight out. There should be a level of learning who they are. This roster thing should never even be a thing. You don't have to go out and be a flit around 304.
Want to do. I don't want a roster. I don't want to go out and date. I don't like this hookup culture. I don't like any of it. But I feel like I don't have a choice. Men, you guys just get to sit there and you guys can go wait until you're in your 30s.
We don't wait. We are working from the time that we start to get that urge to find a way to prove ourselves to you. It wasn't until you started to allow us to take that from you without proving it that we can now wait, quote unquote, till we're in our 30s to settle down. The reason that we're having to wait, and it's a having to wait, because there's so many times that we get into a relationship thinking that it's going to work out, and it doesn't. Again, like my last stream, I mentioned an 8-year relationship that I'd had. I might not have actually mentioned the 8 years, but it was 8 years that I spent with this woman, and it was fighting pretty much the whole time. I didn't go out and build a roster. We won't talk about her side, but I didn't do that. You don't have to have a roster. You don't have to do these things. You choose to do them. Ew, roster. Sloot. Yes, Crusader, I agree fully. I think there is room for healing, but if you gear yourself to be attracted to and fantasies and hookup culture to feel good about yourself, that is a long road to recover from. I agree, Foofy. They need to be making sure that they don't get down that road, but if they do get down that road, men, we need to be standing our ground and helping them understand that we don't want them for just that. If that's all they're offering, of course we're going to take it, because why wouldn't we? If you're going to be offended that we don't take it, of course we're going to take it, right? Woman prattle, boo. Yeah. There's no choice, right? What happened to your body? My choice. What happened to that? What happened to my body? My choice. It's my choices. What I'm doing, I should be taking accountability for it. Crusader, I completely agree. Completely agree. What happened to my body, my choice? If it's not your choice, is it not your body? Should we have the choice for you? Because if it's your choice, then you should be taking the accountability.
You're almost 40 and you can just go get with a girl that's in her fucking 20s and live a normal life.
Well, I'm here to tell you that that's not just like, oh, easy to do. We have to prove ourselves again. And if I, as that age, were to go out and find somebody who wants to be with me because of the work that I've put in to be secure in who I am, it shouldn't matter as long as she's of age. I'm definitely not one to go younger than half my age plus 7 or whatever it is. They're just too young. But if I were to somehow come across someone that's mature enough at that age, I don't see that. But if it happens, I shouldn't be held against. It should not be held against me for being able to provide for that woman, give her the life that she wants because she's choosing it, and give her the kids that I want in the end. Men are made to wait because of useless money and outlandish expectations, like men must be accomplished financially before being allowed to have children. Therefore, intimacy without commitment is the normal now. Foofy, I agree again, and that's the concern. That's the problem. We need to be getting away from that idea and start to actually vet the people before we get into the intimacy. And then you have to put up a chick in her 20s. Then you have to put up with a chick in her 20s. And that's the thing, Wickmoto. I want a woman that is smart, that is mature, that is going to be able to not push me to my limits because I'm an old fart, but somebody that's going to be able to keep up with me, because I do like to be active when I can. And as you can tell, I have some drive to me. I want to be something in this world. Repeal the 19th and women's suffrage. Unfortunately, I'm starting to agree, because the women, you're very easily propagandized. The vote to one household needs to be the thing again, where you're not canceling out each other's votes. This woman here, and I don't know if she's mentioned it or not, but she has a kid. She's sitting here complaining and boobing and bawling because she has to build a roster and this and that and the other, but she has already had that happen.
Girls don't have that luxury. I'm now sitting here at 25 having to figure out how the fuck to get back in these fucking streets so I can figure out, so 10 years down the line, I'm not sitting there single still with my daughter being an only child.
There it is. Again, you need to be vetting the people. And like Foofy here says, yes, it is a very good question. How does one truly vet someone? Personally, she struggled greatly, believed wholeheartedly in lies from ex-husbands. How does one vet an individual capable of lying that well? So how you do that is going to be not allowing them anything that they want until you get what you want. And that's going to be a very big struggle for a lot of people. I'm here to tell you, I regret, to a certain extent, getting into that world before I was married, before I was ready to. And once you've had it, it's not easy to stop having it. But that's where we, in our drive, our motivation come into play, and how we have to fight against that want. It's not a need, guys. Intimacy is not like breathing. It's not like eating. You do not need to be intimate with someone. You want to, and I want to too. Don't get me wrong. I do. But when I'm with someone, I don't just jump into it. I try to make sure that they are prepared for the aftermath. And if it does happen, and I were to, by some chance, get someone pregnant, I would do everything I can to work it out. Of course, I would be there for my person in the end, however that may be. But I would do everything to work it out because it's the best thing. It's the ideal situation. Hey, Dano, good to see you. Good to see you. Thank you very much for the engagement. It's good to see you. Everybody, again, thank you very much for your texts, for your chats. Yeah, Wickmoto, if they don't run screaming from the first camping trip with the fellas, it's a good start. And that's honestly a good thing to have in your first few dates, right? Maybe not the first date, but having group dates again, where you're not pressured into being alone, where you have the luxury of being able to lean on someone else for their strength and have that stability of people around you that you're not going to automatically want to do something. If you want to do something in front of other people, you might want to have a little bit of counseling done, I think. But if we need to get back to vetting somebody, and how to do that is going to be holding everything back. Again, the group dates. Don't hold hands on the first date. Don't kiss on the first date. You know, I'm not telling you how to live your life, of course. But the Bible tells us if your eye causes you sin, to pluck it out. And I'm not going to say that I agree with that extremity, but it's the fact that if you're failing in somewhere, find a way to make it work. And in this case, it's going to be holding them back from getting what they want, is basically all I can say on how to vet people in the end. Get that commitment. Get that ring. Don't have that intimacy until it's absolutely like you're sure. And I know that it's hard to say I'm sure. And that's why marriage needs to be a thing, and a solid thing again. Come to the dark side. I'm not dark, guys. Well, I don't know. Maybe. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, we won't get into that right now, Dano.
I want to have a family. I want to have kids. I want to be happy.
You have kids. You got the opportunity. So where's the guy that had that one with you? You probably decided they weren't good enough. Now, given I don't know the situation. I'm not saying that she is the one who caused it. It could have been like Foofy, and she put all of her faith into someone and got treated like absolute garbage. They are out there. I know that they are. And I'm not defending men by any means when I say this, but women, you hold the key. You are the ones who have to say, no, you cannot come in here.
Want all of these things, but people don't want that nowadays. It feels like no matter, it's like, what is this dating stuff? What is Hinge? What is Tinder? What is all of this? Like, it's disgusting. Like, my friends help.
And yes, I will not disagree with that. The online dating field is absolutely, like she says, disgusting. And I do not wish it on my worst opponent. Don't get into the online dating field if you can help it. Go out. Learn what works in person. Women. It's your time to shine. Men, and I'm not saying that you're not going to get rejected, because we've been rejected a lot. We know what you're going to go through. But what I'm saying is women are going to have a lot of a better time in the reaction. Men don't do, ew, really? That's not things that men usually do. Like, I think the worst I've seen, even online, and I'm not saying that I've seen all of it online, but the worst I've seen online was a guy that went out on a date with a girl that was heavier set. They get to the date. He realizes that she wasn't what he was looking for, what he was hoping for from the pictures, whatever the case. And he lets her know politely, hey, I don't think this is going to work out. And they go about their ways. It wasn't rude like he probably had been treated himself, because let's face it, guys, I know I'm a potato, but I'm not that bad looking. And I've been treated like absolutely the worst person in the world for just telling somebody that they look pretty. So, yeah. I must say that this tantrum online isn't the best way to attract a worthy man. Just go to church, honey, or Bible study. Foofy, I agree. Again, the women that, it's funny because I have to set up my camera to cry into to be able to record this. If you're really having a meltdown, how do you have the wherewithal to be able to set that camera up and get the set script, whatever you want to call it? Because as you guys can tell, I'm not doing it perfect the first time around. So it's probably taken her a couple of times to get this the way that she wants it to be. Maybe this isn't the way she wants. Well, she posted it. So there's that.
We make a Hinge and a Tinder, and it's like, I hated it. I ended up deleting my Hinge, and I'm getting ready to delete the Tinder because it's just like I don't want to talk to anybody on there. Like, I don't want to do any of this. Like I'm just sitting there like a magazine going through like clothing. That's what it feels like. And it's like, I don't want that. And I don't want to be a part of that. I don't want to be a part of that at all.
All right. So she says that she doesn't want to be a part of it, but like I said, she already has a kid. So if you have a kid, you're already part of it. At this point in time, you need to start owning up to what you've done. All right. So we're sitting at about 2 hours. So that's about where I wanted it to sit, like normal, or like normal now, I guess. Girls used to just walk by a construction site. It'll get you a good man. Yeah, Wikimoto, that's just it. Is back in the day, when women would walk past a construction site, construction being one of the hardest working jobs that you can own, that you can do. Honestly, as far as I'm concerned, one of the most reputable because it is what gives us the infrastructure, along with like doctors and scientists, things like that. Blue collar workers are the ones that drive the economy. So when it boils down to it, again, the United States needs to come first. We cannot pour from an empty cup. And the way that it's seeming like is Islam, the religion, does not compute, is not compatible with our culture. Speaking of culture, I just want to show this before I go, actually, because
Stone reads or what kind of pine wood box I end up in when it's my time. Lay me 6 feet deep in God's country.
So again, we have culture. And I, for one, think it's strong. Yeah. So never lucky rubber ducky. My cousin was the state champ for bear racing back in the day for California. That's impressive. California is big. I'm sure it took a lot. And Foofy, I grew up doing that exact thing. Barrel racing. It's impressive. Regardless of what you might think of it, it takes skill. It takes agility, and it takes muscle definition, for sure. All right. So that's basically all that I had. Like I said, we really need to start talking about immigration again. If you liked the music at the beginning of the stream, the Potato Show, that is done by Benjamin, and he has a couple of YouTube channels, AI Jambles and AI Psalms for the Everyday Man. Please go check those out. Give him some love. If you haven't liked the stream, please like the stream, and share this, share the videos that I put up. I appreciate everything that I get from you guys. Again, the feedback is appreciated anytime that I can get it. Shout out to the Whatever Podcast. Shout out to Nick Freitas and the Trigonometry crew for what they've brought to the surface. And as always, please take care of yourselves out there. Inside of the United States, remember your Second Amendment rights. Your response time will always be faster than that of the police. And outside of the United States, remember your rights are important, and they need to be observed and held at the utmost costs. You're all very important. Christ is God, and the Potato signing off.
Have been drawn. We carry the weight, but we're never gone. Through chaos and noise.